The sound of a forensic audit is usually the hum of a server cooling fan or the scratch of pen on paper. Today it was the crack of ceramic and the sharp, expensive shatter of a vase hitting polished concrete. I didn't flinch. My eyes stayed on the ledger. Line 404 still refused to reconcile, and stubborn math has never cared about tantrums. I cannot believe this Valerie Robinson, said her voice tight enough to cut. She stood by the floor-to-ceiling window of her office, Denver winter, pressed flat against the glass. They declined the card, the corporate card, for a $50 coffee run. I adjusted my glasses with 2 fingers and hit enter harder than necessary. The cursor jumped the spreadsheet, recalculated, and the red negative number didn't move. It's not just the card, I said. It's the operating account, payroll, reserve. She turned slowly. Normally, Valerie's presence would have controlled the room. Today, her shoulders held too much tension, and the color had drained from her face like someone had pulled a plug. "What do you mean?" she asked. "I mean the freeze isn't partial," I said, keeping my tone flat. "Your partner, Julian, triggered the clause in the bylaws. As of 9 o'clock, AM Lumina design is dead in the water." She swallowed the movement, small but visible. Her hands went to the edge of her desk as if she needed something solid under her fingers. "He did it," she whispered. "It's leverage," I said. I closed my laptop and stood smoothing the front of my suit out of habit. "He wants you to sell your shares back to him at a loss." Missed the Aspen Gala reveal, and the penalty clauses hit. "He buys the ashes." Valerie's eyes flicked to the wall calendar, then back to me. She moved toward a stack of fabric swatches, like touching them might change the bank's decision. "I have to check the supply closet," she said. "If I can finish the install, Valerie," I said. It was the first time I used her first name, and it stopped her mid-step. "Checking silk won't unfreeze an account." "I have to do something," she snapped, pivoting too fast in heels. Her right heel caught the edge of the Persian runner. Her ankle rolled with a dull, ugly pop. The air left her lungs in a sharp gasp, and she went down. I moved fast, not romantic, not dramatic. I got there in time to keep her head from clipping the desk corner. She hit hard on her hip, one hand braced on the floor, the other clamped around her ankle. "Don't move," I said. My voice dropped into the register I used with panicked clients and aggressive auditors. "Sit still." "I'm fine," she lied through clenched teeth, then tried to push up. Her face went white and she sank back down. "Okay, not fine." Her ankle was already swelling against the strap of her shoe. I kept my expression neutral and my hands precise. "You're not walking on that," I said. "I don't have time for this, Callum." She breathed frustration, shaking the edges of the words. She glanced at the couch across the room like it was on the far side of a river. "I have to get those swatches. You have to get off the floor," I cut in. She stared at the couch again. 15 feet. A ridiculous distance. Then she looked up at me, biting down on her lower lip, as if that could hold her pride in place. "I twisted my ankle," she said, voice smaller now, controlled but thin. "Can you carry me?" I mean, to the couch. I looked at the door. My contract was void the second payment bounced. The clean play was to leave send an invoice and let her lawyers fight her war. Valerie's hands were shaking, not from the fall, from the effort of not falling apart. I exhaled once slow and set my suit jacket neatly over the back of her chair. "Arm around my neck," I said. She obeyed, decisive. No pleading, no theatrics. Just a person who hated needing help and refused to apologize for it. I lifted with my legs and steadied her weight against my shoulder. Her breath hitched once, and she pressed her forehead to my shoulder for a heartbeat before she pulled herself back into posture. I carried her to the leather sofa and set her down with care. "Phone," I said. It's on the desk. I grabbed it and placed it in her hand, then pulled the office door shut to quiet the hallway. "Call your driver," I said. "He won't come," she muttered. "His card is on the same freeze." "Then it's my car," I replied. 10 minutes later, the garage air bit through concrete. I guided her into the passenger seat. She swapped heels for flats from her desk drawer, jaw tight as she clicked one on with trembling fingers. The seatbelt buckle wouldn't cooperate. I reached across, clicked it in, and pulled my hand back immediately. No lingering, no confusion, just procedure. Her apartment was high-end and freezing, the kind of clean minimalism that felt like it was designed to keep strangers from staying too long. "The thermostat is linked to the corporate account," she said, as I eased her inside. "Julian shut off utilities payment." I set her down on the rug because it gave me room to stabilize her ankle without twisting it. The couch was 2 steps away. 2 steps still mattered. "Sit," I ordered. "I am sitting." "Good." I crouched and slid her flat shoe off. The swelling was fast. I kept my hands firm and careful because damage compounds when you get sentimental. "I have an elastic wrap in my trunk," I said. "From a ski trip." "Don't comment." A short breath left her, almost a laugh, almost an insult. "You're an accountant." "I'm a forensic accountant," I corrected, already moving. I came back with my bag. Wrap athletic tape, instant ice pack. I supported her heel and wrapped the bandage snug, but not tight. Her fingers dug into the rug when I angled her foot to lock the joint. "This is going to bruise," I said. "I've had worse meetings," she muttered. She looked up at me from the floor, white knit top and dark skirt, still perfectly work-appropriate, even in crisis eyes, bright with fury and humiliation. If someone took a photo right, then it would have captured the exact moment she realized she couldn't muscle her way through pain. "Can you carry me now?" she asked, quieter. "To the couch." I glanced at the couch, then at her, arm around my neck, same rules. She looped her arm around me with the same decisive motion as before. I lifted her, took 2 controlled steps, and set her down. She sat upright immediately, shoulders squared like she was still in a board meeting. "Don't stand," I said. "I won't," she answered, voice clipped. I turned away before the moment could turn into something softer than it should have been. In the center of her living room, I scanned the space the way I scanned a ledger. Cold, quiet, overly curated, and vulnerable. "I have a toolkit in my trunk," I said. "I can bypass the smart hub and jump the HVAC manually." Valerie blinked. "You're an accountant." I didn't look back. I take things apart to see how they work. I worked for 20 minutes with a screwdriver and a headlamp, tracing wires behind the panel, bridging a terminal, and listening for the click. When the furnace caught warm air, hit the room like a decision. Valerie's shoulders dropped, and she let out a breath she'd been holding so long it sounded unfamiliar. "Thank you," she said. "Save it," I replied, wiping grease off my thumb with a handkerchief. "I haven't fixed the money." I opened my laptop at the kitchen island. "I need your personal bank statements. Not business. I need to see if you can bridge a gap until we file for an injunction." She hesitated, then gave me the login. I typed it in. Numbers populated. $2,000 accessible cash. My jaw tightened. I pushed my glasses up again and tapped enter once sharp, like the key deserved to be punished for showing me the truth. "You put everything back into the firm," I said. She stared at the screen like it might change if she held her breath. I didn't know how else to keep it alive. "Okay," I said and forced my voice into calm. I pulled up a burn rate model. "We have a problem." I know she said the words flat. "No," I corrected. "A new problem." I turned the screen toward her. "Julian filed a lien against your inventory this morning. If you move assets for the gala, he can claim theft of secured collateral." Valerie's fingers curled into the couch cushion. Her knuckles went pale. She inhaled, stopped, inhaled again, and the second breath broke into a thin, shaky exhale. "It's over," she said, staring at the ceiling like it was safer than looking at the numbers. I didn't answer right away. I pulled a legal pad toward me and wrote the first steps in block letters, clean and unemotional. "You hired me to find the anomaly." I hadn't finished the job. "I need the original partnership agreement," I said. "Wet ink, not a scan. The full packet with attachments." "It's in the archive box," she said, pointing weakly toward the closet. "Top shelf. I'll get it." The box was heavier than it looked. I set it on the coffee table like evidence, because that was what it was. Inside were contracts, notary stamps, vendor letters, and loose pages that didn't belong anywhere. I photographed every page, scanned them, and saved the files to 2 drives, one in my laptop bag, one in my coat pocket. Then I started reading the attachments the way a predator reads tracks. Julian's numbers had always looked too clean, too round. Expenses that ended in zeros, padding that landed perfectly on the quarter. Lazy, fraud-like symmetry. It was enough to make me suspicious, not enough to win a war. I flipped deeper into the box and found what Julian never expected anyone to see. An old misfiled sheet of paper clipped behind a notarized addendum. A bank statement copy yellowed at the edges, with a handwritten note in the margin in Julian's neat, smug script. "Use Joint Act, keep it off Lumina books." The statement header listed an account number and routing number. Below it was a wire memo, capital contribution. My pulse didn't spike. My hands didn't shake. But my fingers tightened around the paper hard enough to crease it. Because now it wasn't a feeling. It was a number. Valerie watched me from the couch, her gaze sharpening. "What did you find?" I didn't answer with a speech. I set the paper down on the table between us flat so she could see it without leaning. "This," I said. She stared. Her throat bobbed. That's his." "It's a joint account," I said, already opening another file. "And that note is his handwriting." "A joint account with who we're going to find out," I said. At 11:17 p.m. tires crunched outside. I went to the window and tilted the blind. A black sedan sat at the curb. Engine running, lights off, too still. Valerie's head turned. "What is it, Data?" I said, and my tone stayed even. "Stay warm." In the lobby, I nodded at the night concierge like I belonged there. When he turned to answer a call, I checked the guest log on the desk. No guest, no delivery, no reason. Back upstairs, I opened a new tab in my spreadsheet and typed, "Plate, make, model, time." "You're making a spreadsheet about a car," Valerie said. "I'm making a spreadsheet about intent," I replied. The next morning, I called a licensed private investigator I used for fraud cases. By 9:30, he texted back. The sedan was registered to a fleet under North Star Recovery Services, contracted by Julian's holding company. I printed the report and put it behind the bank statement from the archive box. Threat and evidence belong in the same binder. 3 days became a routine. I arrived at 7 a.m. I made coffee, strong black, precisely measured. I brought Valerie a cup with 2 sugars because I'd seen her do it once and didn't need to ask twice. I set my workstation up on her dining table. 2 monitors, legal pads, printer. Valerie was a terrible patient. On day 2, she tried to stand. "You have a grade 2 sprain," I said, without looking up from a pivot table that would have made an IRS agent weep. "Sit down. I feel useless," she snapped, and then swallowed the rest of it. "You're not useless," I said. "You're the asset. I'm the maintenance crew. Protect the asset." She glared like she wanted to argue, then sank back into the cushions with a sharp exhale and a flick of her eyes that said she hated that it made sense. On day 3, I made toast. Sourdough. Toasted level 3. Exactly how she liked it. I set the plate down within reach, and then returned to the table and kept working. Care for me looked like logistics. It looked like preventing small failures so the larger ones couldn't stack. The first public optics attack arrived by email. Valerie's phone chimed. She stared at the screen, and the color left her face in a steady drain. A draft headline not yet published. Local luxury firm in freefall CEO, medically unfit, court sources say. Below it was a blurred photo of her entering the building lobby in a wheelchair. Deliberate angle. Deliberate timing. Her hand clenched around the phone so hard her thumb whitened. She swallowed, and her breath came out in short, broken pieces like she was trying to keep it from shaking. "He's trying to make me look weak," she said. "He's trying to make you look risky," I replied. I pushed my chair back and stood. Creditors don't lend to risk. I opened the building security portal the concierge had given me. Requested footage, pulled frames. Printed a still that caught the photographer's reflection in the lobby glass. "That's him," Valerie said, voice gone flat. "That's evidence," I answered. I called the concierge, asked for guest entry logs, garage camera angles, delivery records. I didn't ask like I wanted a favor. I asked like I was collecting. By noon, I had a name, a company, and a badge number tied to North Star. I forwarded the packet to a civil attorney I trusted. Injunctions, harassment, receivership disputes, the kind of work where paper wins. The attorney replied by 4:45 p.m. "We can file a temporary restraining order if he enters the property. Keep collecting dates and times. Do not engage." I printed that too. That night, I lined up the documents in the binder, the archive box bank statement, the handwritten margin note, the PI vehicle report, the draft headline, screenshot, the lobby footage, still the UCC filing, the entry logs. Then I started the real hunt. Julian's corporate records, county filings, UCC databases, tax disclosures, and the bank statement in my hand like a compass. At 2:12 a.m., I found the matching wire memo in Lumina's early deposits. Same amount, same date, same reference string. At 2:41 a.m., I found a divorce docket reference in Nevada, sealed but indexed. At 3:03 a.m., I found the name attached to the joint account in a property lien document Julian had filed years ago when he thought nobody would care. His ex-wife. And the docket stated the joint account had been frozen during proceedings. Julian had used frozen assets to buy into Lumina. I didn't celebrate. I didn't breathe easier. I just printed the cross-reference pages and added them behind the archive box statement, each one stapled with a date and source. Evidence is only useful when it can survive a hostile room. The midpoint hit on Tuesday morning. I was at the counter making toast when my phone buzzed. Marcus, my agency rep. Callum. Julian filed an emergency motion. He's petitioning for a court-appointed receiver. He's claiming mismanagement due to medical incapacity of the CEO. I stared at the screen and felt my jaw lock. I pushed my glasses up, then tapped the counter once with my knuckles hard enough to sting. Valerie's voice cut in from the living room. "He knows," she said. I walked in. She was holding her phone with both hands like it was something that could burn her. "He knows I'm hurt," she said. "He's using it to say I can't run my company." I tilted the blind. Across the street, the black sedan sat again, patient and quiet. "He's watching," I said. Valerie swallowed. "The hearing is in 48 hours. I can't even put on a shoe, Callum. I can't stand in front of a judge." "Then you won't stand," I said. "You'll sit. You're not a lawyer." "No," I agreed. "I'm the guy who brings the right paper into the room." I set the binder on the coffee table and opened it to the archive box statement. I slid the page forward like a dealer laying down a card. "This is your proof," I said. He didn't buy into Lumina with clean money. He used a joint account frozen in his divorce proceedings. Valerie's eyes widened. How do you know it's frozen? I flipped to the next printed page, an indexed docket reference, then a matching reference string from Lumina's early deposit record. This wire memo matches your capital deposit, I said. The docket index shows the joint account was subject to a freeze order. The account number on the archive box statement matches the routing record on this lien document. That's the chain. Valerie stared at the paper, then at me. You found that in the box? Yes. Her lips parted, then pressed together again. She nodded once small, like the movement cost her. There's a catch, I said. To get this in front of the judge on Thursday, we file a countersuit today. 5:00 p.m. deadline. Her throat tightened. What does it cost? $25,000, I said. Filing and bond. Her face went still. I don't have it. I looked at her ankle, at the blanket, at the company she had built with her bare hands and a spine made of steel. I pulled out my checkbook. Valerie's eyes snapped. No, I'm not mixing funds with client assets, I said, already writing. This goes directly to counsel-documented repayable. No strings attached. No strings, she repeated, suspicious. No strings, I confirmed. You either win your company back or you walk away clean. Either way, you owe me a ledger, not a life. Her eyes shined. She blinked fast once, then twice, like she was fighting the sting back. Why, she asked, voice thin. I tore the check free. The paper sound was clean and final. Because the numbers don't get to bully you, I said. And because I don't like losing to lazy fraud. By 3:40 p.m., the attorney emailed filing accepted hearing packet, compiled bond, confirmed. I printed the receipt and set it into the binder behind the check stub. Then I slid the binder within Valerie's reach. She stared at the printed proof like it was oxygen. The corners of her mouth trembled for half a second, then settled. Her cheeks loosened. The hard line between her brows eased, and her shoulders sank in a quiet release that looked nothing like victory, and everything like finally being able to breathe. That's real, she whispered. It's real, I said. Now we execute. The courtroom smelled like old wood and stale coffee. I pushed Valerie's wheelchair in. She wore a sharp blazer draped over her shoulders and held her chin-level injured leg extended stiffly face, controlled like she could will her body into compliance. Julian was there, polished and smug, flanked by his lawyer. His smile lasted until he saw the binder in my hands. Your Honor, Julian's lawyer began, Ms. Robinson is physically incapacitated and financially insolvent. For the good of the creditors, we ask for immediate receivership. I stood when the judge nodded at me. I wasn't there to perform. I was there to deliver. Your Honor, I said, I am Callum Chavez, certified forensic accountant retained to audit Lumina Design. I have submitted a hearing packet with authenticated exhibits. The judge, tired-eyed and impatient, flipped through the binder. Exhibit A, I said, pointing, is the original partnership agreement with wet ink signatures and notarized attachments from the archive box in Ms. Robinson's possession. Exhibit B is a bank statement copy misfiled with those attachments, bearing the originating account and routing number for Mr. Julian's initial capital contribution, along with a handwritten margin note attributable to Mr. Julian. Julian's lawyer shot up. Objection. Foundation. Foundation is in Exhibit C, I said, and opened to the stapled stack. Exhibit C is Lumina's early deposit record showing the matching wire memo and reference string for that contribution. Exhibit D is a public lien document Mr. Julian filed years ago, listing the same joint account number for a separate obligation, tying him to the account. The judge's finger paused on the page. Her eyes narrowed slightly. And Exhibit E, I continued, is the indexed docket reference from Nevada divorce proceedings showing that joint account was subject to a freeze order at the time of the alleged capital contribution. The account was encumbered. The funds were not legally available. Julian's lawyer's voice tightened. "This is irrelevant to receivership. It is entirely relevant," I said, turning my head just enough to keep Julian in my peripheral vision. "If the buy-in was funded by frozen assets, Mr. Julian's ownership stake is voidable. If his stake is voidable, his authority to trigger the freeze and file a lien is in question. And if the lien is improper, his claim of insolvency is manufactured." The judge flipped forward page by page, eyes moving faster now. She looked at Valerie once, then back to the documents. "Mr. Chavez," she said, "these exhibits appear to be authenticated." "They are," I answered. "Chain of custody is documented. Originals are available. Copies were scanned and time-stamped. The archive box statement has been in Ms. Robinson's possession for years. It was found clipped to the notarized addendum." Julian's smirk was gone. His jaw worked once. He leaned in to whisper to his lawyer, urgent the first crack in the polished exterior. The judge set the binder down. "The motion for receivership is denied," she said. "And the freeze on Ms. Robinson's accounts is lifted immediately pending a full audit of the plaintiff's initial buy-in." The gavel struck. Valerie's breath left her in a soft, shaking release. She reached out and gripped my hand. Not a shake, a hold. Her fingers were steady now, like she was anchoring herself to something real. I squeezed back once firm, then let go before the courtroom could turn it into theater. Julian's eyes found mine for a beat, cold, calculating, then slid away, already retreating into the next plan. The fallout wasn't clean, but it was controllable. With accounts unfrozen, Valerie paid vendors. The gala timeline snapped back into place. The black sedan vanished after counsel sent a restraining letter with the PI report attached. The draft headline died quietly when a courthouse clerk confirmed the motion's denial. Julian lost leverage, and people like Julian hate silence more than they hate defeat. I went back to my office the week after, catching up on clients and trying to pretend I didn't notice the hollow quiet of my own apartment. My thermostat was set to 68 degrees. It felt sterile. It felt wrong. On New Year's Eve, the night of the gala, I stayed at my desk at 9 p.m., telling myself I wasn't a gala person. I was the guy in the back room. My phone buzzed. A text from Valerie. "The drapes look perfect, but the numbers are off." I frowned. "What number's the guest count? It says +1 next to my name. But you're not here." I stared at the screen. "I'm just the accountant, Valerie." 3 dots appeared. Stopped. Appeared again. "You carried me to the couch. You carried this company. You paid the bond. If you think you're just the accountant, you're bad at math." I grabbed my coat. The gala was in a converted warehouse in Reno, loud and glittering with people who treated money like weather. I walked in and scanned the room like it might contain another threat. I saw her near the center, leaning lightly on a cane she wore like an accessory and not an apology. She laughed with a client, but her eyes kept checking the door. When she saw me, her smile didn't change, but her shoulders loosened the way they had the day the furnace kicked back on. The tension left her body in a visible unwind. She excused herself and moved toward me, limping with control. The crowd parted without realizing it. "You came," she said. "I had to check the inventory," I replied. "Make sure no one stole secured assets." She let out a real laugh, warm and unguarded. "The assets are safe. The company is safe." "Good. But I have a new problem," she said, stepping closer. My brain automatically started running categories. "Tax liability, payroll." "No," she said. "I have a vacant position. Chief Financial Officer." I blinked. "I have my own practice." "I know," she said, and her tone stayed professional first. She reached into her clutch and pulled out a sealed envelope. "Formal offer. salary range, benefits, start date, and a line that says you can say no and nothing changes. I took the envelope but didn't open it. You're serious? I'm serious, she said. And if you decline, I still want you as outside counsel on audits. Your choice. Then she pulled out a second paper, smaller, folded, handwritten. This part is personal, she said. She held it up so I could read it without touching it. Every Friday night, dinner, 1 hour, no boardroom, no contract. If you say no, I still walk away with my dignity. Her eyes held mine. No games. No pressure. Just a clear offer with a clear exit. My jaw tightened, not from doubt, but from the unfamiliar sensation of being chosen without conditions. I looked at the calendar. My name was written on every Friday for the next year, in pen. I looked back at her. I accept, I said. The job, she asked, one brow lifting. The Fridays, I said. We can negotiate the job later. For a second, the hard line at the corners of her mouth softened. Her lower lip released. Her cheeks eased. Her eyes brightened and blinked once slow, like relief finally had somewhere to land. She stepped closer, slow enough to be unmistakable. Her hand lifted, then paused in the air, waiting. Callum, she said low enough only I could hear. May I? I didn't move away. I stepped in. Yes, I said. She rose on the balls of her feet and kissed me, brief, careful, and public in the cleanest way possible. No spectacle. No apology. When she pulled back, her eyes searched my face like she was checking for regret. There wasn't any. Happy New Year, Callum, she whispered. Happy New Year, I said, and the word boss stayed buried where it belonged. It was the only variable I hadn't calculated, and it was the only one I wanted. Competence looks like solving problems when everyone else panics. Care looks like doing it without making the other person feel small.